From Fremont, California, this is the Smokie podcast, a production of the Smoke Signal, covering everything from student life to what's going on in the world in short 20-minute episodes. I'm Gregory Wu, co-web editor of the Smoke Signal, and I want to welcome you to our second episode. A couple of weeks ago, we asked our readers for questions about anything. Today, we'll be conducting a Q&A with Jennifer Xiang, A&E editor, Karen Lee, Centerspread editor, and Tylor Wu, feature editor. They'll be answering your questions and giving you a little bit of insight into the Smoke Signal. Let's get right into it.
I'm Jennifer, I'm one of the A&E editors here at Smoke Signal.
Hi, I'm Karen, I'm one of the Centerspread editors.
Hi, I'm Tylor, I'm one of the feature editors.
And today we're going to be answering some Q&A questions that were submitted to the Smoke Signal by MSJ students.
Difference between CP pre-calculus and honors pre-calculus.
Ooh.
Interesting. I don't know, like honestly a lot of the classes at Mission really depend on the teacher. But definitely honors and CP, the difference is the rigor of the curriculum and the pace that the classes go at, which is like a pretty standard answer. I don't think there's anything that's too special about the classes.
Wait, the CPS, do they have to do trick quizzes? Because that's probably
right. Trick quizzes is basically 5-minute quizzes where you have to complete 5 questions in 5 minutes, and to pass them you have to get all of it.
Yeah, I don't think
it's like the biggest difference.
Yeah, it's the biggest difference.
Yeah. It's just a really big difference from freshman year. Like freshman year math classes versus sophomore year math classes, there's a huge difference. That's kind of also where you filter through students.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah.
Alright, I think I'll take the next question. Favorite musical artist? Ooh. I feel like Tylor has a lot of opinions on this.
Currently my favorite artist is Ben Platt, of Dear Evan Hansen fame. I don't know, there's not a lot to say, I just like his voice.
He's a nice guy. Look.
I feel like I'm a little bit more mainstream than you guys, definitely. I would say along the lines of Frank Ocean. Yeah.
I think I'm mostly indie rock, plus I used to really be into emo and stuff, so I think right now it's Car Seat Headrest, Julian Baker, etc. But My Chemical Romance just announced their comeback tour, so I'm getting those tickets.
Alright. Do editors know how many copies sit unread at classrooms? Surely they will print less.
Oh my god. Well, sometimes you just gotta. We have to, the number of issues we have, I feel like they have to be equal to the student body, just in case, but I am aware, for example, I used a few for my Peralta project. Don't tell anyone that. But, we have a lot of uses, we have, you could use this. I feel like a lot of times teachers, they have a tendency to just recycle things, but that's good. As long as you're not throwing them in the trash, that's a good thing. Recycling paper, that's great. Recycle, reuse, third R.
Reduce.
Reduce, oh no.
But definitely we've heard a lot of things about copies of the Smoke Signal being used for paper mache projects, which I think is really beautiful in a way. It shows how the Smoke Signal really holds up the structural integrity of the school.
Exactly, especially in art classes. We're central, we're integral.
But not derivative.
But not derivative. Haha. Let me try this laugh I've heard.
Favorite ways to de-stress? I don't know, definitely for me, exercise is a big one, and then I'm a huge fan of food, so food videos are the only thing I watch on YouTube or Instagram, so definitely I don't know, just putting your mind to rest in terms of I don't know if you like to go to the gym, and then for me it's just watching videos. So I'm a big foodie.
I play American Truck Simulator, the best game in the universe, where you just drive a truck around the United States, and I just play that, and I played that before I learned how to drive. So now,
driving
helps.
Driving helps a lot.
It helps.
Just driving around the neighborhood, driving to get a drink or something.
Finding a very secluded mountain road and just going up there for an hour and then running out of gas and then calling insurance but you have no signal. That's really a good distressor. It's only happened twice.
Stressful.
It's only happened twice so far. But it's great to get your mind off other things and onto other things like
worrying how you're gonna get back home.
Yeah, like that.
Without gas.
I mean, there's always this third option. You can crawl up in the fetal position and cry.
It's great. I recommend that too. What's your worst habit? What is my worst habit?
I think for me it's like overthinking a lot of things. Over worrying about things, overthinking about things. Although sometimes I'm not wrong. Like the situations that I imagine can happen actually do happen sometimes. But I do overthink a lot of things.
I'm not gonna go introspective. My worst habit is that I don't put the cap back on my toothpaste after I use it. And they dry out and there's a crust of like little toothpaste around it. Every day I have to squeeze it out. And I've been yelled at so many times, but I'm still doing it and I'm never gonna stop. That's my worst habit.
You know, this sounds like a classic interview question, so I'm going to say that my biggest problem is that I really don't do enough planning in life. But that really allows me to be spontaneous and take up opportunities as they appear.
Well said.
Well said.
What events do you enjoy most at Mission?
I definitely think like Multicultural Week. Yeah, definitely. Also because like we have a lot of food fundraisers, so big fan of those. I don't know, like having anything with air bands I think is really fun because it kind of gives us high school spirit that we're known to lack, but those kind of events kind of like I guess break that stereotype in some way.
Tyler, what's your favorite?
I just remember, I'm not a big events person, but the only event I remember is Multicultural Week because Mr. Peralta always took us on those little field trips 3 minutes before lunch started so he could grab all the best food before the kids were out there.
I think having fourth period Peralta is a privilege. No, you've got it's a real privilege, but what's my favorite event? I liked Expo. I liked Expo a lot more when I wasn't in Mission, but I think it's very helpful. I also like it when we do plays. But yeah, I think those are very fun to go to. Yeah.
What kind of jokes fit best in newspaper articles and why?
Well, this is a feature question. Feature?
It's for him.
It's for him.
I guess we're really looking for humor that connects to the MSJ body, but isn't quite as dark as a lot of what the MSJ body would, I guess, portray themselves as. Because as the school newspaper, yes, we want to connect with the student body, but we also kind of want to present that kind of like motivational or uplifting message throughout our stories, not just kind of like the doom and gloom that we experience a lot.
There's a good joke that's opening up a review in a newspaper coming out next Friday, so just look for that joke. It's very great.
I definitely think we're trying out new things with the newspaper, so any pitches you guys really have are open to like listening to, and yeah, a lot of like this year I think has been experimenting, like this is an experiment, this is something new we haven't done before, so yeah, definitely open to ideas. Yeah.
How do you guys pick stories? Ooh. It's a process.
So at least for Centerspread specifically, we have the entire center page, so we have color, which is expensive to incorporate, and then we have only one story per cycle, which basically means we have to pick a story that has a lot of content for us to cover and that is directly related to the community. So it can't just be about one student group, it has to be about maybe parents or teachers and also the entire student body. So it really can't be specific, it has to be very relevant to what students are experiencing. So for stories, I guess for all the sections, we have something called an action plan, which is basically how we're going to coordinate writers, sources, and how we're going to execute, which is a huge part of being part of this organization. So stories are something that all of the staff writers and editors think about each cycle, and then we have a discussion, and then the editors choose from the list of stories for their sections. So that's typically how we do things, and then a lot of it, again, is like thinking like what kind of angle or what kind of message we want to send to the community based on the story we choose.
I think, speaking for A&E, which has most of the time we have like the most stories out of any section. For reviews, we're mostly just looking at the calendar, looking at what movies are coming out, what albums are coming out, like with relevancy to the student body, what people are listening to and watching. But I think with like the other stories we have, the other spreads and like restaurant reviews, game reviews, things like that, yes, we are looking for relevancy, but we're also looking for something like that the student body might not even know yet that they really do want to, like, are really into, that may like introduce a different type of like media that they might not have heard about. So I think that's something we look for when we're choosing stories too, like just unique things that are like different. Yes, we will review the restaurant that everyone's dying to try, but we will also look for something that like not everyone's heard of.
And then I guess the other two have covered it pretty well in terms of what we generally do, but for features specifically, there's two things we look for. Every cycle we try to feature someone either who came from the MSJ community or is currently part of the MSJ community, who is doing something that we think is really unique and cool and interesting. So that can either be in the form of like a singer, or a couple cycles ago we featured someone who does short films. And then the second kind of story that feature looks for is stories that I call "Don't Let Your Memes Be Dreams." So it's where we really try to find fun and entertaining and kind of these like out there ideas that we think the MSJ community would really interact with and enjoy.
Yeah. I think in general we just try to incorporate a lot of diversity in the paper so that we're not just saying, oh, we're a STEM school just because we're MSJ. We try to really highlight drama, arts, humanities. So really diversity is really important to us. We're looking at the whole paper from taking a step back and looking at all the sections and the topics that we cover. Yeah. What do you learn in the journalism class? I think for me, like, I went in not knowing how to talk to people, which is a big part of being in journalism, is like sometimes you're put in situations where you're on the spot and you need to think of something to say and you're presenting to the entire class. And just thinking on your feet like that, I think is really important and something that you really practice during class for sure.
Yeah. But like speaking on like a literal term, like when we first come to journalism, one of the first things we do is like we learn about libel, we learn about like journalism best practices, standards, how to not get sued, things like that we need as like a basic thing for like that all journalists need to know, and that's something that like we learn from like day one in the class for like in our J1 year, which is like our first year. I think throughout it's just through our experience. It's not obviously, we don't have a textbook, we're not like out there, it's not a class, it's we learn by doing mostly, I feel like.
We have a lot of fun too.
Yeah, we do have a lot of fun.
I guess just adding to all of those great things that they've talked about is that you really learn how to work within an organization in journalism, and how you fit within teams, and learning teamwork in that aspect is really, I guess, the most unique and engaging aspect of what you learn in journalism.
You definitely learn how to plan too, for sure, like scheduling, just because in this organization all the deadlines are stacked on top of each other, so if you think of like a set of dominoes, you miss one and there's like the entire structure falls apart kind of. But it's just knowing how to be adaptable and like even if you do miss one, you make up for it. And I think a lot of it is making mistakes and learning from it, even though that sounds cliche. But yeah, it's not just for people who want to be learners, it's for everyone. You really develop as a person, not necessarily from like literally what you do. It's like how you develop your mindset. That's what I really got from the class.
Big words. Does pineapple belong on pizza?
Yes.
No.
Absolutely.
No.
Absolutely, it
Absolutely
does.
not.
Pineapple is the only fruit that should ever go on pizza.
People can do what they want with their pizzas. I'm not here for
The pizza police. You know, I just said the fruit thing. I'm trying to think of any other fruit that should be on pizza, but I can't.
No,
Yeah.
pineapple.
That's true. If it had to be a fruit, it would be pineapple, but I am opposed to fruit on pizza. Yeah. It's a fun question.
Favorite class at MSJ and why?
Discrete mathematics of Mr. Hoffman. I was only saying that because it was very fun. I don't know what to say. We did a lot of fun math.
I mean, like, I think each class has its own unique qualities because each teacher is different, so even though it's like the same topic or field of study, all the classes are different. And for me, that's like, I always like something about each class, so I don't know if I have like a singular favorite. I kind of enjoy the whole experience. Yeah.
Well, since you're all here listening to the Smokie podcast, my favorite class is, of course, journalism. The class that really taught me the most about just outside of academics and those soft skills that other classes don't really tend to focus on as much.
Is it a class or is it a way of life? Big brain.
I think the classes that are most fun are those are like less traditional.
Yeah.
Definitely like smoking though, like we go on field trips, we like have fun. We have a lot of freedom in that class, which I think kind of teaches you responsibility, but also like, you know, you can chill and levels.
Why are people so obsessed with boba? It's like an anthropological question or something. I think people are obsessed with boba.
I think it's an acquired taste.
I think it is
and
too.
It's very widespread in California, which is in like all of us growing up here. Definitely a huge influence. So, yeah.
I think it's the social structure pops along with it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
The marketing.
I mean, I just like to think of it as, why do we enjoy anything? We enjoy things because of, like, generally we enjoy desserts because of sugar and fat, and boba has both of those in plentiful amounts, so.
I think it's your turn. Thoughts on coronavirus? I think the biggest issue with this virus is definitely how international governments are handling it.
I'm very disappointed by how a lot of people online have used this as an excuse to be like very xenophobic and racist about it.
Yeah.
And I know that like since we are in a place where we have like so many people like of the Chinese diaspora and like we have so much travel, I know why a lot of people are a lot more paranoid about it, but it's still very disheartening to see a lot of people make jokes about it. Yeah. One thing nobody would know about your job as editor.
I mean, we used to have something called Saturday weekend work weeks. I think was super, super fun. Like I said, a lot of bonding time. Basically, we get free food. And then we work together. So it's usually on the weekends, and I think really enjoyed that last year, but unfortunately we don't have that this year. Yeah. What advice would you give your freshman yourself? Honestly, like, just chill out. Like, stop, like, I mean, like, it's easy to say and hard to do, but like I said, my biggest problem was overthinking stuff, like, especially when I was younger. Yeah, it's just like, don't be so hard on yourself. Everyone is most critical of themselves than anyone else is in this entire world, so, yeah.
I think I relaxed too much on what I shouldn't have relaxed with, and I stressed too much about, it's just balancing that throughout.
That's not gonna change though.
I know.
It's like you handle life as it comes, and sometimes like you just choose the wrong way to handle it.
Yeah.
You know, that's okay. It's like, it's gonna be what it's gonna be.
Yes. I don't have a lot of regrets in life, so
Regrets are wasted emotion.
The best thing I could say to my freshman year self is stop sleeping through class, learn how to actually plan things. It really helps a lot later, especially with bigger projects. What's the biggest problem you think teenagers face today?
If we think about teenagers in our community, we live in such a bubble and homogeneous kind of population in terms of mindset, in that we don't really know what the real world is like. Even though we study about this, we're like, oh, real life applications, you know. We actually don't know what that is, and like we're just a very bubble community, and I don't think like it's a good and bad thing. In terms of safety, like we're very, very safe relative to like anywhere else, and we're very lucky to have that safety, but at the same time we're not able to understand a lot of the real world like problems, so that everyone's perspective is relatively narrow-minded compared to if you're living in a different environment.
The biggest issue teenagers face today is the universal trauma of growing up.
No, I also think we take a lot of things for granted, for sure.
I think growing up in the process itself and being a teenager is inherently traumatic and inherently a whole thing, and maybe that's the biggest problem of being a teenager, is being a teenager.
Yeah, and I think like part of that is that we have this concept that at some point this is just a phase in our life that's going to end, and then before we get to move on to the quote-unquote real world, but just because we start or stop being a teenager, our life doesn't become any more or less real than it was during that time.
We do get more legal protections. That's what we think. Why can't we have a 4x4 block schedule at Kennedy?
I personally don't like block schedules, but
I've heard of something not like them either.
yeah.
See, in my ideal world, you would only really be taking about 3 or 4 classes a semester, where each of them would cover more content. And maybe, you would go to class every day, but just like lecture. You know what, this is really sounding like the structure that we're...
So your ideal structure is college?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah. But I definitely think block schedule is ideal, especially for the high school structure. Like APs, they have to finish in like one semester.
Yeah.
Like the first semester, let's say you take AP Bio, the second semester you take like AP Chem or something. Like you're gonna take both tests in May, so you have an entire semester where you don't have instructional minutes on Bio. So something like that. I don't know. I feel like a year-long curriculum is better. That's just my opinion. Is a hot dog a sandwich? No. Because a hot dog, the pieces of bread are still connected. And for a sandwich, it's separate. It's cut all the way.
A hot dog is an avocado toast.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
A hot dog can be a sandwich. Be free. Oh, there's one stuck to the wall. Take that one. If you were a principal for a day, what would you do?
I would get a new office. Sorry, I don't mean that. I'm sure the offices are lovely. I would get a new office though. I would put my office where the student store is now. I feel like that would be a great place for an office. It's the one thing. I'm sorry. What do you do?
I think I would like walk around and see the school life from an administrator's perspective. Might be kind of different from what a student sees.
I would just call in sick. I have no idea what I'm doing. Don't put me at the head of school.
Exactly. Great. How are writers selective and how selective is the process?
Well, be on the lookout for applications coming soon.
March. Probably.
We don't look for perfect writers, we look for fast learners. Definitely, like, the learning process is more important than what you currently have. Like, how proactive you are, how willing you are to kind of contribute, and kind of like your motivation to join Smokie. That's what we really look at.
I definitely was not a perfect writer when I joined, and I'm still now. Yeah, definitely. And it's just, I think it's like that level of enthusiasm, a level of consciousness, like being able. I think we look for like someone who's like able to like adapt to an environment that changes very fast. Not necessarily someone who has all the skills already, but like who can definitely like adapt to finding the skills and can like we see the capacity. Yeah.
Thoughts on the Grammys? Don't watch award shows.
Award shows. Did I watch the Grammys? No. Why didn't I watch the Grammys? Because I had stuff to do. I saw the red carpet. Like some of them, but not like the other ones. If you heard about the recent leaks about the Grammy process, it makes me just not believe in award shows, and I don't think you should. The only fun thing about award shows is that sometimes it's fun to laugh in the whole, like, the artifice of it, you know? Like, the intricate rituals of, like, opening up something, giving it to someone. None of this means anything to you, but you're just watching it happen. That's a fun part about award shows.
What's one thing that's changed the most from your first year at MSJ to now?
I changed from using a backpack to a messenger bag. The thing I was most excited for senior year was getting to use a messenger bag instead of a backpack. I hate backpacks, but I needed one through freshman, sophomore, junior year because of binders and textbooks and whatnot. Now, messenger bags are all that I believe in, and that's the biggest change. That's the only change.
I think I've just gotten used to the dynamic of the school, which like comes very easily once you're entering like from freshman year. Like everything is new now senior. Like I've done this like 4 times, so yeah, just really got used to the dynamic and get around really easily.
I mean, I guess all of us are seniors here, so we all got to see the advisory process change every year.
Yeah.
So that was entertaining, but that's probably the biggest thing that's changed. MSJ is pretty stable.
Yeah.
I love freshman advisory. Like that first year when we had it, yeah.
It was very interesting.
It was very fun.
Oh, and Mr. Larson's gone. I guess that's the same.
We do miss Mr.
I think that's the last of our questions, so this jar's empty.
I'd like to thank Jennifer, Karen, and Tyler for joining us on the second installment of the Smokie podcast. We hope your questions have been answered and that you've learned a little bit about us as an organization. Our background music is produced by Momo Music, and our show is edited by Riya, Chopra, and Gregory Wu. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.